There's Wiley over there. There's Matt. Matt and his mom.
School
Dad.
started yesterday.
My lovely woman. And there's our lovely sister-in-law. And there's our brother. We won't say lovely.
I once got a job offer from Southwest.
Dr. Orell. See, we've had a lot of new arrivals. I'll just kind of show you who they are. Here comes the Kansans. And some of them I don't know who they are. There's the Gene Prairie boy. We're going to go over and get Mrs. Dark, Marie Dark, a classmate of Dad's. Looks like she needs somebody to visit with her. Oh yeah, here's Jim Swigert and his wife, his new wife. Well, you can't get a facial I'm just going to wander around a little bit.
Here, why don't you sit?
Here, I think it's working.
Your attention again. Hello again. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to all the cousins and aunts and uncles and friends. Actually, I'd like to mention a few of the people that are here. Maybe you can put your hand up. And if I miss anyone, maybe my brothers and sisters can help me point them out. I'd like to introduce to you a lady that I just met, and I'm really glad she came. Mrs. Dark, where are you? Oh, right there. Okay, from Blue Springs, Missouri. Then there's Dr. and Mrs. Orell, right over at that table. If you'll stand, well, you don't have to stand, put your hand up. Then we've got Judy Landeck over here. She is a cousin of ours. I haven't figured if it's third, fourth, fifth, but she's Dad's cousin's granddaughter, I think, or daughter. We met about a year ago. Great lady. Then there's Reed Flippin right there next to Dad. Reed Flippin is a gentleman that Dad worked with for a long time.
About 50 years, I think we've...
50 years.
More like 100. He's 90 years old.
Dad says Reed is 90. If he is, he sure gets around well. The Dinwitties are here. They also worked at Midwest Research. I think maybe that he was in the business end of the Midwest Research. Is that correct?
I counted the money.
Well, you must have got that job done pretty fast.
Yeah. Didn't take all day.
Then we have...
He played golf the rest of the time.
For those of you who might not hear that, he played golf the rest of the time. That's according to Reed. Now, over here we have Mr. and Mrs. Swigert, and Jim Swigert was our pastor for a long time when I was a kid and thereafter. Then across from them are the Frenches, our good old neighbors from Esplanade Lane. And they bought our house when we moved out. And then, well, this is working out real well. The Fries are over at that table. This is my aunt. Uh-oh.
I'm still here. It's okay. It's okay.
Art and Violet Fry and their granddaughter Twan. Now, if I missed anyone besides the Wiley side, the Wileys just sit still. We know all of you. So, is there anyone I missed? Well, Clauses don't count. They're houses.
I'm not Wiley. They wanted that distinction.
Chris and Jill.
How much quieter they are.
Well, you may be asking yourself, why are we gathered here today? Hopefully you're not, but if you are, we're here on the 23rd of August, and we are celebrating but we're actually celebrating something that's happening tomorrow. Did you know that tomorrow is National Peach Pie Day? And it's also National Strange Music Day. And if you don't believe me, just look it up on the internet. That's where I found out. But you know, this day is a very important day. Back in 79 AD, August 24th, Mount Vesuvius blew its top. Created a wonderful archaeological site for people to go to. The printing of the Gutenberg Bible was completed. This is all true stuff, don't be laughing. This is 1456 is when the Gutenberg was completed on August 24th. Then in 1869, once again, August 24th, a gentleman named Cornelius Swarthout, if I can pronounce his name properly, he received his patent on the waffle iron. He described it as a device to make waffles. And it became very, very popular. Then on August the 24th, 1912, the U.S. Post Office began to accept packages weighing more than 4 pounds. Now, why that's an important thing in history, I'm not sure, but it kind of works its way up to 1918, the date I'm trying to get to. The next big event occurred 1918, August 24th. William Burtner House was born.
Sure beats that waffle iron.
I tell you, he was handy with a waffle iron too. I didn't know it preceded him so long. Well, we were talking the other day on the phone, my sister and I, and I said, well, I talked to Clint first. I said, Clint, you invited everybody. Are you going to get up and say a few words? Or is somebody going to say something? Well, no, I hadn't thought of that. And so anyway, we were talking and decided that maybe each of us could get up and say, tell a story about Dad, you know, like what we learned from Dad, or I don't know what the other one was, Mary. A memorable experience, that's right. Well, I got a hold of my brother Roger on the email. By the way, well, you're going to see all of us. I won't introduce what I call my sibs. Anyway, my brother Roger is way out in California, and he couldn't make it out here at this time. So he sent an email, which I got about 2 hours ago. I had to get off of Jenny's computer, and he was kind of blaming. He said, well, you know, there's a time difference between here and there. I said, yeah, that sounds like Roger. But this is what he says. Happy birthday, Dad. Dad, I'd like to remind you of a time way back. It was the summer of 1955 or maybe 1956 when I was 12 or 13. He said, I can't believe that was close to 50 years ago. How can I be so old? Well, Roger really is old. Let me tell you, he turned 60 this year. That was about a week or 2 weeks ago. He said, I don't remember all the details of this event all that well. He said, although I can still spot a 56 Chevy a mile away. I believe it happened something like this. I was a Boy Scout that summer, working on moving up to a rank of first class. I had one requirement left to fulfill to get my first class. I had to go on a 5-mile hike and cook a meal in the woods. Well, usually this requirement was met, as many others were, during a camp out with the troop, or maybe while at Camp Nash during the summer. The scoutmaster or some other adult connected with the troop would sign off on the requirement, and eventually all the paperwork for all the various requirements would be reviewed by a court of honor. He said, I believe that was the term of the group that signed off on these things. Well, somehow or other, I had not gotten around to completing this one last requirement, and it was starting to get a bit embarrassing. I'd been second class for a long time. And then in a little parenthetic expression here, he says, "I don't want to hear any reports of snide remarks from the Missouri contingent of the family." He said most of my friends in the troop had been first class for a while. Now that doesn't sound like Roger. I thought he usually dug right in Scouts. I'm a little surprised that I don't remember this event at all myself. But a court of honor was due to convene soon in the summer of 1955, but I had more or less given up on satisfying the requirement in time. There was no camp out or other activity coming up that would give me a chance to take the hike and cook the meal. I don't remember the details now, but Dad, you became aware of my situation and told me that you would make sure the requirement was satisfied by the time of the court of honor. Well, time rolled by, and suddenly the court of honor was the very next day. I timorously reminded you the evening before about my unsatisfied requirement. You snorted and shuffled a bit, obviously somewhat put out. But you gave me a list of foodstuffs, cooking utensils, matches, etc., and told me to have it stashed in a pack and ready to head out in the early afternoon of the next day. I dutifully gathered everything together and packed it up, although I was a bit perplexed because I knew that it was a working day for you, and on a work day I normally wouldn't see you till evening. About 1 p.m. you drove up, went into the house, changed into some outdoor clothes, and off we drove. I have no idea where we went. It wasn't that far away from home. We probably were still in Wyandotte County, maybe even in Shawnee Township. I could name the 50 states, but my sense of local geography was vague. We parked on a country road in the woods, got out, and started hiking into the woods. As I recall, it was fairly dense, scrubby woods. Not very pretty, but by golly, it was woods, and we were hiking in them. We hiked and hiked, and eventually you decided we'd gone about 2.5 miles. I must confess, at that age, I would have been hard put to know if I'd hiked a mile or 200 yards. I started trying to build a fire so we could cook a meal. I don't remember the details that clearly, but my impression is that after a while you helped with the fire building. Otherwise, we might have had a cold, uncooked meal. Well, I guess it's beginning to sound like I wasn't the world's most skilled Boy Scout. This was probably the case. I enjoyed camping out and having fun with my scout buddies, but I wasn't Daniel Boone by any means. I'm reminded of the New Yorker who once said that outside is the place between the taxi cab and the apartment door. Well, somehow the fire got built, the food got cooked, the meal got eaten. I have no memory at all of what we ate or whether it was any good or not. Soon we were finished, packed up, and hiking back out of the woods. We got into the car, loaded up, and took off. Somehow it had gotten well into the evening and time was getting short. We drove directly to the court of honor. We were a bit grubby looking for the occasion, but afterward got out of what we'd been... but after word got out of what we had been doing that afternoon, there were a lot of grins and joking. You signed off on the hiking and cooking requirement, and I got my first class. As you might have noticed during the telling of this tale, I don't remember the details so well, but I've never forgotten the main thing, your love and care for your son. Thank you, Dad. I love you, Roger. Well, we thought we would do this chronologically. Jenna, you got here just in time. Now for the lovely Virginia.
I don't really have any long, drawn-out stories, but the things little things that you remember. If you're old enough, you guys aren't, But there used to be ads in magazines all the time about, I dreamed I did so-and-so in my maiden form bra. There used to be girls doing strange things in their maiden form bras, and I just remember that Dad would go out the back door of our house on Esplanade Lane saying, I dreamed I sprayed my orchard in my maiden form. I mean, that was how he knew he was going to spray his orchard. Then, whenever he left, he would go around the table and give everyone a rinktum, which is like, I'll demonstrate on Dad's head. This is a rinktum. This is how you can say hello or goodbye.
Cornforth invention.
At any rate, those are just a couple of things I recall. I'm sure there's millions of other ones. Alan's up next.
Well, I know I told one of my sibs what I was going to say, and I don't know if it was Roger, because mine was Boy Scout stories too. If I could speak a Boy Scout story in case you didn't make that out. Well, I had a few problems myself of advancing in Scouts. I was headed for Star Scout, which is the next step up to Eagle, and I thought if I get the Star, that's fine. I'm not going to go for Eagle. That's too much work. Took me forever to get my camping merit badge, seems like. But anyway, you had to have, I think what he's calling a court of honor, I think maybe it's called a board of review first. Then the court of honor is when they gave it to you.
Right.
Oh, thank you. Anyway, I had done all the work, but I had to have a recommendation from Pastor Swigert here, from a school teacher, and from a parent. Well, I did pretty well with two of them. But you see, part of the deal was your parent got this form to fill out. And part of it was, you know, how well does so-and-so keep their room? How does so-and-so fulfill their tasks that they're given at home? So I got before these, I was sitting there by myself. There's a table about like this. There I am, a little old kid of 11 or 12. 4 men sitting on the other side, looking rather dour, especially after they read what Dad put down. But you see, Dad wrote down exactly the way I was. They read it to me something like, well, I went downstairs, went over to his room. See, Roger and I, we didn't really have a room. We had a corner of the basement, but we kind of lined up furniture to make a room out of it. Went over to his room. His bed was unmade. There was junk all over the floor. I mean, he just told the truth. And boy, that really impressed me. I still remember it very well. But you know, I thought to myself, you know, well, man, Dad is honest. My dad's honest, and he tells the truth, because I knew everything he said was true. And so that's something I learned from Dad, is to be honest about things. Now, lovely Mary.
All right, I'll have to give my brother later. I don't really have a story, but I have just some things that were kind of typical around our house. And 2 things I think I learned from Dad, which I very much appreciate. And one was have a good sense of humor. And even today with my brothers and my sister, we're usually laughing most of the times when we get together, mostly telling jokes on one another. And Dad was a real practical joker, and I think we heard all the stories about growing up in Blue Springs and Kurt Cornforth and all the crazy Parker boys that he used to hang out with. So we had a lot of good stories and a lot of laughter around our dinner table at night. But the one thing I also appreciate about Dad is he really taught us to enjoy music. And one of the funniest things I remember, but it happened more than once, was Dad was always cooking breakfast in his boxer shorts. You know, he would have his t-shirt on, his boxer shorts, and we'd be listening to the Chattanooga Choo Choo. And he'd be dancing around like a ballerina in his boxer shorts to Pennsylvania 65000.
I can't say lovely this time. Here's my brother Jim.
Well, the picture you need to see is Dad was in his boxer shorts with black socks and black floor shine shoes. It wasn't that pretty. We were supposed to tell stories about what we remember. I got 3 spankings from my dad, and I remember them all really well. I don't know how many I got from my mom, way too many to count. But there were some pretty interesting experiences with Dad. One, I think I was about 7, Mary was about 11, maybe within a year of each other. But Dad always had a lot of things on his mind. I don't know if he was thinking about the orchard or what he needed to do that day or what projects at MRI. But we went to the grocery store with him one Saturday morning, and we always ran back and read comic books and looked at the toy section, and we'd been enjoying ourselves for quite a while, and we finally just wondered what happened to Dad. He went home without us. So, that was one memorable experience of spending time with Dad. And then I was 9 years old in Jamestown, Virginia on vacation, and found myself kind of by myself and went back and the car was gone. But I think he just did that one for fun. Because about the time I was getting ready to start bawling, I could see the station wagon coming around the corner. They were looking for me. But I have one instance. I don't know, a lot of you don't know, I make my living as a auto mechanic. Basically, I work on RVs and trucks. And one of the most memorable things Dad had to say to me, I think he doesn't recall it, but he came home from MRI. It was after dark, as usual, and I'd gotten an old 52 Ford that I'd purchased for the handsome sum of $100 that hadn't had the lug nuts off of it in a long time. And I was out in the drive. I was in the drive, jumping up and down on a wrench. I was probably cursing at it, and he got out of the car and slammed the door, and he said, "You're either going to have to learn how to work on those things or make enough money to pay somebody else." I just wish he'd have been a little more emphatic on which end of that. But that was my dad. He left you the choice, but he always told you the right thing. And somewhere between the time I was 16 and 25, he learned a lot of stuff. Because I didn't think he knew what he was talking about then. I love you, Dad.
Now, Clint didn't get my email that we were going to tell these stories, but
That's easy.
there's a lot of things to say.
Yeah, one thing I remember was Dad became the director of the biological sciences department, and he was there a lot of the time. But one thing I do remember, when I was a kid, before I didn't know there wasn't a Santa Claus or anything, we had a magic gopher in our backyard. And every Saturday morning I'd run out there, and there's this gopher hole that there's alwa't a little treat in there. As you can see, it's worked well. But anyways, he took the time out to do that for me, and it was really neat. I didn't know for a long time it was him. I thought there was a magic gopher. Also, I remember every Saturday morning was usually involved at least 1 or 2 trips to the hardware store with Dad. Normally it was 2 trips. But I learned to do a lot of stuff around the house, and I learned how to not do a lot of things. And I remember for years I had some long johns that had aluminum, or what kind of solder do you use on copper? Is that? It's just solder, but I had drops of it down here holding a pipe up for him to weld on, and I thought, this is insane, I should be asleep. Well, I love you, Dad.
You know, Clint, we're starting to think of a lot of things now. When you talk about plumbing. Now listen, Dad taught me a lot. I mean, he would do anything. We would do plumbing, wiring, anything, and I learned a lot from him just being there watching him or helping him. But one day, I told you about that room we had downstairs. Well, Roger's bed was right below the bathroom. And so we had a problem up there. I don't remember what it was, but you know, those were the days of the old lead pipe. And so Dad had a couple big monkey wrenches, and he had a bunch of pipe and pipe threader and that kind of stuff down there. And I know we jerked on a pipe down there one day, and all the plumbing in the whole bathroom just fell out on Roger's bed. Some of those home projects, you know, you think it's going to take you 15 minutes and it takes you all day. You want to talk about the slave list?
Well, somebody should mention them since
Well,
the absence. He always left.
Dad left very early in the morning and he got home. He was about like 7 to 9 is his work hours a lot of times. And so he wasn't there to tell us all the things that we needed to do during the day. So we had a chandelier-like thing. Well, it wasn't like that, but it was just a fixture hanging down from the ceiling in the kitchen. Well, it would have a big, long, about 3 or 4 pieces of typing paper taped together with a list of Alan, Jim, you know, everybody's jobs for the day. Well, that didn't hurt us any. Kept us out of trouble. I think there's a cousin of mine here that wants to give my father an award. Mr. Pemberton, this is Steve Pemberton.
Thank you.
From Nebraska now.
So we got 2 things. This time of the year, we've got to deal, just honor the brave, America's wars and warriors. You know, we really appreciate how smart this man is and what a leader he is. And so we got him a book. And then to keep it from being too deal, we gave him a presentation to kind of remember the day. In recognition of William B.House, Ph.D., upon executive recommendation, the niece and nephew committee of the Himokians hereby express its appreciation. It says, when he got too old to set a bad example, he started handing out good advice. So I'd like to do that.
Some of you have never heard of the Himokians. Does anybody want to know who they were?
It's a long story.
It is a long story, but the Himokians was an invention of B.House. He started it in Columbia, Missouri about 1953, maybe 52. And what it was is he established an Indian tribe, which included basically the Wiley family, my mother's family, and a few other fortunate people that got to be a Himokian. Himokians, you've heard of the Mohicans. Well, don't mix us up. We are the Himokians. The Himokians are named after a beagle hound named Himo. And the way Dad started, seemed like in those years there were always a lot of diapers around the house and baby bottles. So he said something one day. You've heard of rinkdoms. Now, he had a lot of strange things for us, but he picked up the baby bottle and he made some decree, and then he shook 2 spots of milk down on top of the butter. This is at the dinner table. And he made this declaration, and he got the tribe going. And his name was Chief Baggy Pants, actually. We shortened it to Chief Baggy. But this is for those of you that aren't on the Wiley side of the family, a little bit more about Dad and some of his creativity. Do we have anybody else that wants to say a word or two? Come right over, Aunt Neva. Aunt Neva first. We'll go by seniority here too.
Well, there's not very many not many people more senior than I am. So anyway, well, I want you to know that I am the queen bee of the whole thing. And my sisters have all been trying to get my name changed ever since he gave it to me. But anyway, I remember very clearly the first time I ever saw B.House. And Elaine brought him, I don't know whether it was home or whether I was at Columbia. I just remembered that Elaine mentioned me, introduced her new boyfriend, B.House. And I thought, Elaine, what in the world do you see in that man? And we've learned to see what she saw. And we have loved him for several years now. So happy birthday.
By the way, her first husband was named Rattlebone. He was a very thin guy, very skinny guy, and he complained for years. He wanted Chief in his name. He wanted to be Chief somebody. Well, Dad fixed him up real well. His new name was No Chief. Aunt Faith, were you coming?
No,
Yeah.
tell him that he said that's fine, but he'd been a teacher, and they spelled the N-O, and he said, well, you misspelled it. It's supposed to be K-N-O-W-G.
Yeah, that's not.
We never could figure out how Neva got to be Queen Bee and Bill's wife was Squash Tomato. And then I'm Tender Turnip. And I tried to have an insurrection, but it didn't work either.
What food group is that?
Pardon me?
What food group is that?
I don't know. But on our Indian tribe, we've had lots and lots of fun. And the first year they had it, my husband and I, he was in the service and we didn't get to attend. So Bill sent us through the mail the tail of the pig. But another thing on B.House, when he was working on his PhD in Columbia, I was there working on my BS. And when my birthday came about, why, 3 of the fellows from Schweitzer Hall, well, I guess just 2, they were over at Elaine and Bill's, and they had fixed me up a basket of gifts. And one of the gifts was a big stopper like you put in the sink. And of course they had little notations on them, and they said, this is for the oral cavity that is never closed. Then he had some of the Hershey Kisses and said, for the kisses you never get. So we had lots of fun. I was a single girl at the time, and the man that I married, when I started going with him, Bill sent him a picture of me when I was in grade school, and pictures, my hair cut off straight like this, and I looked pretty pathetic, and it said, with the identification of this picture and 6 tops of Peter Pan peanut butter, you will receive a gold-plated putty knife. So my husband went out and got 6 little jars. You could get peanut butter in jars then at that time, and sent them to him. He wasn't expecting that. So he did. He got a putty knife and painted it gold and sent it to him. And so they did things like this for many seasons. And my husband was a veterinarian, and one time he was out cutting boar's teeth. And those of you who don't know, boar's teeth get to be pretty big. So he ordered a set that had plastic, and he put this in plastic and a 2 sticking straight up and sent it to Bill. So over the years, we've had lots of fun, and so enjoy, Bill.
Alan, don't forget the Fresno shirt company.
Well, that's what Clint's getting ready to do.
Oh, are you going to?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
We don't, I saw one as a kid. He can't.
You need to know some more of
All right,
that. Dad's creativity.
I don't think I need this because I'm last. You guys probably don't realize that Dad is on, I think he's the CEO of a company called the Fresno Shirt Company. And apparently this got started in Columbia, Missouri in the 40s by a guy who's still alive, and he's still nuts, says Dad. His name is Gene Booth, and he ran a chicken hatchery or egg company or something. Anyway, in the 40s, men wore jackets, ties, and shirts, dress shirts, to go to school. And this guy was, I guess, always too hot. So he would cut everything away from his shirt except the collar, the front of the shirt, and he would leave those French seams so that the cuff would still be stuck to the shirt. But there would be no back, no sleeves, nothing. Just a collar, a front, and cuffs. So anyway, when we were kids, Dad would, every time he wore out a dress shirt that was real frazzly up here, he would cut it just like that. Cut everything away from it and mail it to Gene Booth from the Fresno Shirt Company. Then in 1958, Larry Scott, I don't know what they call them now, but shorts that were longer came in, Bermuda shorts. So Dad invented a new line at the Fresno Shirt Company, and it was called Bare Nuda shorts. And the way you make Bare Nuda shorts is that you cut the whole rear end out, just leave that French seam down the back, and there's just no back in Bare Nuda shorts. Well, and it was always his old undershorts, which were amazing to start with. But anyway. Then that was the new line. So all the old raggedy dress shirts got mailed to Clinton, Missouri, and the Bare Nuda shorts. Well, this Gene Booth, who is still alive and still crazy, says Dad, he has taken this Fresno Shirt Company. I mean, he sends all these huge packages to Dad about the minutes of the board meeting minutes for Fresno Shirt Company, and also they have a think tank at Tightwad. Where is the think tank? There's a certain group of people that meet, they're the think tank for the new product lines for this company, and they meet at Tightwad, Missouri. So I just wanted you to know that this company is still in business, and Dad is still running it along with Gene Booth.
Would anybody like to place an order? Well, what? Oh, Linda? Okay, great. Come on up. Oh, okay. Her sister's Linda. My cousin Ann Lucas.
Well, Uncle Bill's always been special to me. I was one of those kids who took the ballpoint pen apart to figure out how it worked. And Uncle Bill could appreciate that after my dad passed on. But he began to get concerned about my sister and I when we graduated from college and we hadn't found a guy yet. So Uncle Bill was always great about sending you mail, and he was the family historian who took the pictures of you with your mouth open while eating at the barbecue and then sent it to everyone. So he decided that maybe Linda and I needed a little more education. So he started the College of Romance. I bet you didn't know that he was the dean of the College of Romance. But he is. And I mean, I had a notebook. And we got regular coursework on what we were supposed to do, you know, and it was like from King Arthur's court. I got a birthday card from him, and it was like you know, King Bill and Queen Elaine and the little clerk and all these things about how to get a guy. And I'm happy to say I finally graduated the College of Romance. I have a lovely daughter, and now I get to take a refresher course.
The names of some of the courses he had.
Well, you do that, Mom.
One quick thing.
Okay, cousin Jean. I used to always call her Jean Claire, but I finally adjusted to Jean.
Well, anybody who ever visited Uncle Bill in Kansas City knows about the Grand Hotel, and I think we have to say something about the Grand Hotel. And about 10 years ago, I was coming to a conference in Kansas City, and so I picked up the phone and I called the desk of the Grand Hotel, and I said I would like to make reservations for a 3-night stay at your lovely facility. I actually got a card back with a note on it from the desk of the Grand Hotel confirming my reservations, and I want you to know it's probably one of the most wonderful stays in Kansas City I've ever had. I arrived about 9 o'clock in the evening, and I was greeted by Uncle Bill. He carried my luggage in, he carried it upstairs, turned my bed down for me, you know, had just the greatest accommodations. And the next morning I had to get up early and go to my conference, and I was treated to some of those Belgian waffles that morning. Although, unfortunately, he did have clothes on, not just his boxer shorts when he was cooking those things. But I just thought everybody needed to know about the Grand Hotel, that anytime you needed a place to stay in Kansas City, it was a great place to stay.
But you'll have to be careful, because one time I went and he had the no vacancy sign put up.
Okay. I guess that's everyone. We have something else that's going to happen here right quick. But if anyone else has something to say, yeah, okay. Well, we've got Chris Kloss here.
I'm kind of like the orphan around here. They can't get rid of me. But Clint and I took quite a few trips with Bill when I was back in high school. About 25 years ago with my dad. And we went down to look at all the mills down in southern Missouri and northern Arkansas. And we went around, must have seen 20 mills, camped for about a week. And I remember one night, it was raining. We had a tent put out, and our clothes got wet. For whatever reason, we decided to go ahead and put all our clothes in the back of the station wagon, get comfy in our tent, in the sleeping bag. Well, then we realized the keys of the car were in Bill's pocket, and the station wagon locked up. So he says, Kloss, we need to go get a hanger. And this is at a campsite. So I'm a little more modest. But I am the one that snuck from tree to tree, all the way up, in my BVDs, so we could have clothes for the next day. But there is many more memories. That's it.
Come right in, ladies.
All right, whose birthday is it? '85. Wow. Oh, you missed it. See, look at this. There you go. There we go. All right, here. What's your name, hon? Bill. Bill, stand up, Bill. We want everybody to see his hat. Okay, ask everybody. everybody here knows it's Bill's birthday, and he's turning 85. So if you guys want to clap with us while we sing the birthday song. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Happy, happy birthday, we're so glad you came. Hey, have a happy birthday from the Ryan's Gang. Hey, we're so excited, we hope that you are too. So have a happy birthday from the Ryan's Gang. Happy
I want to thank all of you for coming, and please eat hearty on this cake. If you can possibly eat some cake, it's a big one. So thanks for coming.